Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the Galactic Window Space Podcast. My name is Nick. I'm known as the Orbital Alliance.
And I'm Tan, also known as Chasing the Milk.
How have you been, Tan? How was your week, man?
Dude, pretty good. Episode 13 is pretty crazy. I can't believe we're in the double digits, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, we're in some really high speed momentum that we're like really accruing that now, aren't we?
We're on like a rocket ship. Look at all the people in here, bro. Look at all these guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into the live stream. If you're just tuning in, good to see so many of our friends here. If you're on YouTube watching this podcast live, if you're brand new to the show, this is the Galactic Window. We talk with wonderful guests about their unique view into the universe. We call that the Galactic Window. We like to hear their perspective on how they receive the night sky and space and how that affects their life. We find that very important. We want to make sure that we're telling as many stories as possible. And Tan and I just like to have a good time chatting with cool people, you know?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I see a lot of you guys in here coming over from TikTok, some OGs in here. Guys, seriously, thank you so much. We're extremely excited for tonight's guest. So grab some snacks, grab a drink. Tonight's going to be out of this world.
Dude, for some reason, first of all, first things first. Everybody, just so you know, if I sound a little stuffy, it's because I'm sick tonight. So if I don't sound normal, I've got a little bit of a cold, a bit under the weather. So I just want to kind of make it known up front that I'm not quite at 100%, but I am so excited for tonight. And I noticed that I thought at first it was maybe my cold that was making me feel a little bit weightless. But I don't think it is the cold, Tan. What do you think it might be that's making me feel a little bit lighter? I feel like floating out of my seat tonight.
I don't know what's going on, bro, but I feel like it's happening to me too. It's probably gravity.
I think it's a lack of gravity, right?
Ooh.
You know.
Where are you going with this, Nick?
Well, I think it's time we introed our guests for the evening and welcome them in. So what do you think? Should we roll this intro video and explain why we are feeling a little bit weightless? Here we go. Let's do it.
Tonight, we are thrilled to have a conversation with Tim Bailey, a tremendously influential leader and educator in the aerospace and spaceflight industries. Tim currently serves as the in-flight manager for Zero G, an organization dedicated to providing parabolic airplane flights to people looking to experience weightlessness without actually having to go to space. He is responsible for the training and management of crew members aboard G-Force One, the modified Boeing 727 that's used in the weightless flights. Tim is also the executive director of the ZG4 STEM Foundation, a nonprofit focused on encouraging students to enter STEM careers. Additionally, Tim is the former executive director and current board member of the Spacekind Foundation, which is responsible for the renowned Yuri's Night space parties all around the world. And that's just scratching the surface. So let's find out more by welcoming Tim Bailey to the Galactic Window.
Welcome, Tim Bailey. How's it going, man? Oh, you're muted. Oh, no.
It's the gravity.
Technical problems.
You made it.
I had to mute myself because I was fanning out over how great that video was. That's probably the best intro that I've ever been given. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's
man.
it, guys. We hope you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See you on the other side. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
we're gone. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
dude,
we're
that's
so
kind
excited.
of you to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's great to be back. Tan, I'm glad we were able to get back together after that amazing TikTok live that we did for Summer of STEM.
Yeah, maybe I'll just give everyone a little bit of context and how this is even possible. Earlier, what was it, a couple months ago? Something like that? Yeah, there was a TikTok reached out and was like, hey, we want you to, would you be interested in doing a collab with, some STEM companies? And I said, yeah, let's do it. I mean, that's kind of the short of it. They flew me out to Colorado. I got to meet Tim, stole one of his flight suits that I'm just now revealing. Just kidding. He totally gave it to me. But I was so fascinated with everything about you, Tim, and what you do that I even told you, I think I remember saying, like, I'm just going to shoot my shot. And I was like, hey, man, like, can we do a podcast? Can we just make this a thing? And chat. Guys, here we are. We have Tim here, and there's so much more that I want to ask you, and I know the audience here as well is going to be really interested. And just letting you guys know in the chat, we have this awesome ability to feature your guys' comments. So later on, when we open up the floor for questions, we can even pin your comment. So what would you guys think? Should we just get into it? Should we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Game time.
Okay. Well, why don't you give your version of like an introduction to who you are, what you do, and we'll just start from there.
Wow, that's a big ask sometimes. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Bailey. I'm currently the in-flight manager for Zero Gravity Corporation. As you saw, that means I have the privilege of making sure that the whole team that flies with people in Zero G is well-trained and is ready to take on that responsibility of training our next generation of astronauts, supporting researchers that are up there doing groundbreaking science, and for people that are doing things like productions, filming movies or commercials or spots that are up there. And even sometimes people that just want to go up and have a good time. Just go up there and have fun and experience something that's completely new that they've never been able to do before. So that's a really fun job that I have, being able to help manage that team. In other aspects of my life, I do nonprofit work. So I started off life in a small town in Georgia, where there was none of this stuff available to me, right? Like this was all things that I read about in books or watched on TV. I'm watching Star Trek and wanting to be an astronaut and wanting to go out and make something good happen in the world, right? I wanted to be part of that larger world. And one of the ways I did that was in Boy Scouts, getting rocketry merit badges, trying to go to space camp. I never actually made it to space camp. As a kid, we went to the Rocket Center with my Boy Scout troop, but I never got to actually go. But then I found somebody and I shot my shot. I asked somebody, where do you go to become an astronaut? How do I do that? There's no Starfleet Academy that I can go to, right? Like there was no Space Force back then that I could join. And they said, oh, there's a little school in Daytona Beach, Florida that you should go to. It's called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And they're just hyper-focused on space and aviation. So I actually went and visited as a freshman. And if you can imagine how dorky a person has to be a freshman in high school going to visit their college of choice, that was me right here. It was pretty bad. But I loved it there. I ended up going back and visiting, making friends while I wasn't even a student, and going to college at Embry-Riddle and having an amazing time, learning that I should not be an engineer, which is what I learned going to school there. Yeah. But I did make some amazing friends. I met amazing people that have been really helpful in my career. And that's what got me eventually into Zero Gravity. And that's what got me into Yuri's Night and the Spacekind Foundation, and eventually into Space Camp as a camp counselor. So, just dreaming and imagining all those things as a kid, and then having the guts to actually ask somebody, how do I do this? Where do I go? Because I don't see it around me, but I know it's out there. Where can I find it? I think is really the crux of where I went and how I got to where I am.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I just don't even know where to start, because what you're doing is such it's really a gnarly thing. So you're deeply involved in space exploration and advocacy. I mean, let's start with this. Tell us a little bit about the Spacekind Foundation and Yuri's Night for people who don't know.
Sure. So when I first started as an intern with Zero G, more than 2 decades ago, fresh out of college, actually I was still working on my master's degree, and I met these amazing people that were young professionals like me. They were excited about space, and they said, we want to do something, and we've started this idea of making space cool by not just talking about science facts and figures and how much thrust comes out the back end of a rocket, but dancing and having a party. We actually really like music, and we think that space is something that should be celebrated. The fact that, we've gone to space and we're a spacefaring species. We have an opportunity that no other species on this planet has ever had to survive outside of this Earth. And so they started a party called Yuri's Night out in LA. And their friends around the world found out about it through a thing called the Space Generation Advisory Council to the UN. And they all started hosting parties. And so it became this worldwide space party that everybody would have, all centered around April 12th, which is the anniversary of human spaceflight. So it was the anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's first flight. So he was the first human to go up into space, orbit the planet once, and come back down. And the thing that they loved about that was not just that he was the first, but that when he went up, he said, the world is so beautiful. We should be working together to protect it, not fighting over it. Like in that brief 100+ minute flight that he had going around the world, a Soviet era cosmonaut who was a fighter pilot had the realization that the Earth was a very small oasis of life in the blackness of space, and that we should work together to cradle that and really uplift our whole world, not fight over these little pieces of it. And so that's what we do. So we started having more parties. We started encouraging other people to treat it like the St. Patrick's Day of space. Like, you can celebrate whatever way you want. There's no rules. If you want to have a rave, go out. And we've had people do like huge raves in LA and in San Francisco. We've had people in like Montana put up just a telescope at their local custard stand, right? Like out in the middle of the nowhere. We've had parties all over the planet. Observatories in Europe would put on parties and let families come in and see what the astronomers do. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. We even one year had the Mars rovers, one of the Mars rovers actually do a little dance on Mars for Yuri's Night, because everybody wants to have fun and celebrate being in space. And so as part of that, we've expanded out and become the Space Kind Foundation. We're doing leadership training now to train the next generation of people to really have that leadership mindset of working together on a global level. And then supporting other projects as people come up with them, and encouraging people to make that next leap of their own into something bigger. So just like, starting a podcast even, some people want to do things like start conferences. Analog Astronaut Conference, we help them get bootstrapped and started. The Cosmic Odyssey Scholarship, somebody wanted to do a scholarship to send pediatric cancer families to space camp. And so we've been helping to do that as well. It's been amazing to start off saying we want to have a big party, but realize that can mean a whole lot more as far as bringing people together to do amazing things as a planet, instead of just as, individual little tribes.
Wow. Dude, I absolutely love the sense of unity that exists in all this. I know, right? I feel like
beautiful
we should...
message, dude. Man.
Yeah,
clip it.
Yeah, clip it, chat. I think the message. Look at the name Space Kind, right? I'm assuming that would be a reference to humankind or mankind, right? Like that. It's kind of this space reference instead of just the creature, that we're all bound by sharing space together, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's so. One of our founders, Loretta Whitesides, has said that we've made this leap in civilization now, where we've gone from saying it's mankind to saying, okay, well, we really want to talk about humankind. But in her mind, she said, we need something that's actually a better version of ourselves. If we want to go out and we want to be spreading out into the stars and to other planets, we don't necessarily want to be the same type of humans that we've seen here on Earth for the last several 100,000 years, right? Like we could evolve and be better than the people that we have been. And we have the tools now. We have psychology, we have medicine, we have those things where we can choose what we take with us as we go to explore the stars. We can choose to take our tribalism and our differences and those pieces, or we can choose to be space kind, and we can take the whole of humanity and be really intentional with the music and the culture and the food and the fun and the science that we bring with us as we go out and explore these new places and take our species out with us. And so it's sort of that mindset. How do we become the better version of ourselves that we would want out in the stars, spreading throughout the cosmos?
Oh my gosh.
I heard food and I heard party.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to change all the lights in my room to
Yeah.
like rave mode. I think we're ready for a rave. Are you guys ready to just get crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys are, if you listeners are like, yo, I'm trying to find a cool party, screw the frat house. Find an astronomy club, and you're probably gonna find some awesome people to party with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and we actually do that. So it's most of our parties, we try to encourage people to think in terms of how do you combine art and science and music and culture and like highlight all those things that you want to highlight as part of a spacefaring species. What would you want to take from your community if you were going out into the stars? You know, sometimes that's a fashion show. Sometimes that's just like a cool band, you know, and sometimes that is like that person, you know, that has that amazing food that everybody loves. And you can just eat that and think about like, how would we take this up with us when we're going to space? Man, what an amazing civilization we have that creates this amazing food or cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be eventually a thing that spreads across the solar system, right? Like you've already partied on Mars, the space station as well, correct? Has there been a some level of a celebration up there?
Yeah, actually, in 2011, the 50th anniversary of Gagarin's launch, so 50 years of people in space, they had a giant celebration on the International Space Station. And Ron Garan, who was a NASA astronaut, actually wrote to us and said, hey, is there any way we could do a Yuri's night on the space station? I've been to these and they're super cool on Earth. We'd love to do one in space. Is that okay? And when an astronaut calls to say, is it okay if we have a party with you in the International Space Station? Spoiler alert, the answer is yes,
Yep,
always.
Every time,
right? So they actually took shirts up and had Yuri's night logos, and they were so busy that we were told they will not have time to do anything for you. And we were all okay with that. We're like, hey, they're having their party. That's the part that's important. And they actually did end up recording a greeting on their own personal time to send down with the whole crew. So the whole multinational crew that was up there, all wearing the same shirt, celebrating the fact that, and talking about that in different languages, that, hey, we're a crew, an international crew that's orbiting this planet, and we're all proud to be part of this exploration and this outreach together. Not as individual countries, not as individual people, but as citizens of Earth. We're really excited to be celebrating together 50 years of having this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, my feels.
Yeah, that is just so powerful.
Oh, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, when you said Ron Garan, I want to just quick note. Like I have a huge respect for Ron Garan, and my channel name, the Orbital Alliance, is a little bit of an homage to his orbital perspective. The Orbital Alliance, like that's kind of where that comes from, but also similar to the space kind thing, was that we are an alliance of a species, all in orbit around the sun together. Like we're all going in the same direction. You know, why be separate? So there's been a couple of things here where I've already caught some connection points. And I'm like, man, this is just. I'm freaking out right now. And you've gotten to speak with Ron Garan, and was that when he was still on the ground preparing for mission, or was that when he was on board station?
So that was right before. That was when they were on the ground preparing for mission. It was actually they were getting ready to push all of their supplies up that they were going to need while they were on station. So they, for those that don't know, when they send people up to the International Space Station, they usually send most of their stuff first, make sure they've got all the supplies they need, and then the people come up separate. There's not a whole lot of room in the capsules and in the shuttle when they were bringing those to bring a lot of supplies with them. So they would mostly send that stuff up separate and then bring people. So he said, is there any way you could get me some shirts by like Monday? And this was, I think, Thursday or Friday afternoon when we figured out, because we're like,
Amazon Prime it.
Yes. And back then there was no way to do that. So it was like, I knew somebody at Johnson Space Center, and I overnight Saturday delivered some shirts that I had at my house by chance to their house, and they walked them into the astronaut office on Monday morning to be part of his. But when the universe wants something to happen, man, it will make it happen.
It just happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And so but that's what we wanted to have happen with Yuri's night, was for people to say, gee, I want to do that too, and I want to do it my way. How do I do that? And so we have a website, and I think you showed it in the video that you were scrolling down, with our logos on it that you can use. It's got how to throw a party on there. And then we also let people just list any of the events that they're having, whether that's in April or any other time, on the website, so that you can go in and see, like, I wonder if there's anybody in my neck of the woods holding one, or is it going to be me that's hosting, like the big party. Smithsonian has had some here in the DC area where I live. We've had large events out in LA with almost 2,000 people out there. We usually have one down at Kennedy Space Center in underneath the space shuttle that's there. But you can have one anywhere. You can have a private party in your own house with just you and some rocket pops and watch Spaceballs, man. And that's good enough, right? Like, there's no rules whatsoever. I've gone to daycare and done straw rockets with them. I've had vodka shots at a bar and everything in between.
And so flamethrowers are fully acceptable, right?
Yeah.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower. Oh my goodness,
man, this is This is just I'm a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. In a good way. Yeah, let's dive into. Yeah, go on.
So I'll show you where most people typically would have their flag on their flight suit, but when I'm wearing my flight suit, I like to have this patch of Earth on it, specifically. And I've had people ask about it, and it's not to diss in any way what my country or where I come from, but talking to the astronauts, they've always talked about the fact that when they get up and they have that orbital perspective or the overview effect, where they really start feeling like they're part of the planet, they stop pointing to their country, they stop pointing to their state, or their city. It's interesting to see it go by, but at some point they say they feel like they just look out the window and they see Earth and it feels like home. That the whole Earth is their home. And so I don't think that it makes sense if you were going to another planet and that those aliens started pointing out different parts of the planet they were from, that wouldn't make any sense, right? Like, they never do that in Star Trek. So I always think of myself as I'm an ambassador of Earth, of the whole Earth. And so I should probably represent that and show that here, that I'm not just here for one group of people. I'm here for all people. And that's who I need to represent. So that's pulling sort of my Yuri's Night, orbital perspective kind of ideas back down into the stuff I do every day.
Well said. I'm glad you mentioned the patch, because Nicole here was curious about some of the other ones as well. You got a few of them up there.
I do. So I also have on my name tag, because I'm a flight attendant here with 0G. I've got this little set of wings and helmet. This is from the Brooke Owens Fellowship. So that is specifically looked at helping underrepresented gender minorities in the aerospace industry. It was started. A friend of mine, Brooke Owens, died young from breast cancer. And her friends got together after her death and said Brooke was such a force in the aerospace industry. She had been a coach with 0G. She had worked at the X Prize Foundation, helping to launch literally the commercial space sector. She had worked at the White House in the office of OSTP and OMB, the budget office there. They said she at such a young age had such a high impact. We don't want the rest of that potential that she had to go to waste. How do we make it better? And so they actually started this foundation and this Brooke Owens Fellowship, where they get paid internships for women and gender minorities at aerospace companies all over the world, I believe. And they bring them in. It's a highly competitive process now. And they've got now cohorts of people, hundreds of fellows from that they call Brookies. And so I just like to honor her memory and the fact that just because something bad happens doesn't mean you can't make something good out of it. Right?
Yeah.
The hundreds and thousands of people that are going to benefit from the Brooke Owens Fellowship, not that we wouldn't rather have Brooke any day of the week, but that her friends decided that it was their job to push on her legacy. Sorry, didn't mean to bring it down.
No,
it's
but
okay.
it's like so special that I get to be a part of that, and that I knew Brooke, and that we get to fly some Brookies on our plane every year when we have college students come through, and it's just a really special way to honor her and to remember that there's always something we can do.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a very special thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's so really really special, and I think that's an underutilized human trait of trying to make something more out of perhaps an otherwise maybe tragic scenario, and I think the potential is so high for the good that can be done, and I think what you shared is certainly proving that. That's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
And it's become a sort of an example for other people to follow. I've known other people who lost loved ones that were in the aerospace industry that have, done scholarships in the past or that sort of thing. But now there's the Patty Gray Smith Fellowship. She was a administrator at the FAA, and so that fellowship is now specifically for not gender minorities, but other kinds of minorities, right? So that would be like African Americans, and making sure that they have representation and that they have support to get into the aerospace industry. The Matt Isakowitz Fellowship, again, lost at a young age to cancer, and his dad was an aerospace executive and said, I want to make sure that he has a legacy that's worthy of his name, the same way that Brooke did. And so they've been helping to bootstrap some of these other fellowships. And it's really, they don't want to have a hold on it. They want this to be an example that other people can follow. And I think that's one of the other amazing things about it is in the aerospace community, I feel like we have a really good community, right? Mm-hmm. Like the rocket people don't hate the telescope people, and telescope people don't hate the spacewalking people. And, it's like everybody wants to work together and help lift everyone up as a society and as an industry. And so that's the other thing that the Brooke Owens Fellowship shows is, hey, we can do this and we can do it together, and we can model these things for each other. And that's the one next to it is my Astro Access. So that's it's an A, but the little dots in there are actually Braille for MAA, Mission Astro Access, going across.
Wow.
I thought it was a UFO from far away.
Teeny.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's a little, and that was a program that, again, Space Kind Foundation helped to do, and they came and flew on 0G to do disability research into spaceflight. So there were a number of ambassadors who were doing disability research, and they came from backgrounds that had them where they were maybe mobility challenged or had differences in limbs. They had blind and low vision researchers, and then they also had deaf and hard of hearing researchers. And they were all in there looking at how somebody like them would be able to operate in a space environment and how to improve environments in general and spacecraft and space stations so that they have universal accessibility and anybody could go to space or anybody could be on that. And that's been an incredible program to watch develop and grow. They've done 2 whole flights. They've been on multiple other flights as researchers, and they just keep pushing forward a lot of really great technologies that are increasing overall mission assurance and mission safety in the whole industry, not just to be disability friendly, but to really be safer and allow more people access to the spaceflight environment.
So cool. So awesome. Real quick, Tim, I just want to do a quick shout out to a lot of people in here. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I am just so excited to be here. I'm just going to shout out some people real quick. We got Star Walking, Blue Eyed, George Space is out, Harmony. We got some Star Seeds in here, Deep Sky. Awesome. Okay, so if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna shift gears. Let's talk about zero gravity space flights. I think that's what you guys want to know a little more about. So, Tim, let's just kind of walk me through the process. Let's say I want to sign up. I want to experience weightlessness. What does that look like? Can you kind of walk me through just like if I'm
so. 0G was created to give you exactly that opportunity, right? Before 0G as a commercial company, and we're totally commercial, investor driven. We do not have any money coming in from the government other than as a customer. So before us, the only way you could do it was to go and fly with NASA, really, in the US. That was the only place that you could go and do that. And it was their researchers doing their research according to their rules. And we wanted people to have that opportunity to just go buy a ticket. Like, it's so cool. It's so fun. Everybody that flew with them wanted to do it again. So the founders worked for about 10 years to develop the company. And now you can go online to the website, go0g.com. You can look down the list of upcoming flights that we have going on. We're going to be in Long Beach this weekend. We're going to be out in Houston soon. We've got flights in Dallas. We're going to have flights down in Florida. And pick a day and click purchase ticket. And it's that easy. And you go in, you buy a seat. You buy a seat in one of our experiences. We give you, like you see Tan having, we give you these cool flight suits. We give you training. We do some networking while you're there. And then we take you up on a flight as part of that and give you this zero gravity experience where you get to go up in a plane and we climb and dive this 727 aircraft several times, multiple times. You get about 6 to 7 minutes of weightlessness total over the course of the flight, including some lunar as well. We give you not just weightless, but we also let you walk in lunar gravity. And
oh, no way. That is so gnarly.
And then a whole bunch of other stuff, like a space pen. You get like a cool boarding pass you can keep. And so you get to train just like we trained the Polaris Dawn astronauts that are getting ready to launch. Yep. You get to train just like they did on our aircraft. And then come back down. We'll do a champagne toast and send you on your way to go out and, live out the rest of your dreams.
Can you explain in a little more detail the concept of parabolic flights? Like, how does that work, and what do you experience on ascent and descent, and how do you adjust the values along the way to get different experiences?
Yeah, sure. And then I saw somebody over here, is it Copper Cherry, that was asking about what kind of plane we had. So we have, and I have my model right here, our 727 aircraft. So this is just a Boeing 727. Used to be a really popular aircraft. It did a lot of cargo flying, and ours was a passenger plane originally. Then did cargo, and now we've retrofitted it to do zero G work. So it's an off the line plane. It didn't actually require very much change to be able to do it. The only thing that we had to do was modify some of the hydraulics. Because if you think about it, when we go into zero G, the whole plane is in free fall. Everything about the aircraft is in free fall. So it doesn't matter if it's in the cargo bins, if it's in the cockpit, if it's in the back, everything is floating. Everything's in the same kind of free fall. And it's the exact same physics as the astronauts that are in space. So the thing that we had to do was work on some of the fluids that move around, because in zero G, the air goes to the middle of a fluid. It doesn't stay top and bottom. It'll go down and be in the middle. And what we didn't want to do was try to move the wings, or pull one of those control surfaces and suck air down into the lines. That not catastrophic, just not good for the plane. So they made a system that would keep that from happening. And that's basically the only thing that changed, other than putting some instruments in the cockpit to let the pilots know exactly what they were flying, because they fly it all by hand. This is all hand flown. There's no computer doing this for them. They have to do this. So what we do when we're doing a parabola is we fly along, we pull up, and there it's just like going up the hill on a roller coaster, right? You are pulling G's like this, and you end up everybody's laying on the floor so that they can take those G's, and you end up with about 1.8 to 2 times your weight while you're doing that. So it feels like it's not that hard. It's just kind of like a really hard takeoff on any normal airplane. But you don't want to move around a lot because it'll slosh your ears a little bit and it can be uncomfortable. But we'll keep pulling. Now, a normal aircraft, though, takes off and it does about like this, right? Like this is normal takeoff and landing for an airplane. Woo! All right, we're going to do a steep takeoff. When you're with zero G, we do steep. We'll go up to 45 to 50 degrees nose high, really trying to climb and get as much of that as we can. But we don't go that high. We only go up to about 30,000 feet when we're doing this. So they climb the plane, they have it nose high, and when we get up to the full speed, they pull the throttles back, and it just glides over the top, and everything's in free fall over the top and on the way back down. And so then as we're going down, they're doing the same thing, and they're just taking and nosing the plane down and keeping it just pushing faster than the air resistance to keep everything falling at the same rate. And they've got G meters in there and us in the back to talk to them, to tell them what's going on. And we're all just falling at the same rate. So we just fall for about 30 seconds, up and over the top, over that other side. And as they reach their max speed, they'll give us a call that they're coming out. We let everybody in the cabin know that they need to get their feet down because we're coming out of the parabola. They all lay on the floor, and we come down and start into our next one again. And it feels just like a roller coaster. You're picking up all of that momentum and all of that speed before you start going back up again.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What an experience. I mean, and you've been with Zero G for how many years now?
This is my 21st year at Zero G.
And how many flights have you done, give or take?
Just north of 400.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done this maneuver about 9,300 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask, what are some of your most memorable moments? Like, what kind of people are booking these flights? Like, what's the average person look like?
That's a really good question. Over the years, I've seen literally everybody. I've seen grandparents that had offered their grandkids, like, hey, you graduated from high school or college, like you can have a trip of a lifetime. What do you want to do? And this is what the kid chose.
I thought you said the grandparents were doing it.
No, their grandparents are doing it with them.
Oh,
like the grandparents and the grandkids are floating around together
with
like
the walker. Yeah.
But
Dorian.
so that's the crazy part, right? Like, you don't have to have a walker when you're up there, because it doesn't matter if you move slow or you move fast. Actually, moving slow is better. You just need a fingertip to move across the cabin and to have fun. And we found people, especially on the Astro Access flight, that could move a lot better in lunar gravity than they can in a standard Earth gravity. When we're doing lunar gravity, we just we don't dive quite as hard. We sort of shallow out as we're coming up and over. And we get the same, it's the same effect as being on the moon.
And the moon is about 1/6 Earth gravity, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Mars is 3/5, so we call it like a third, and then the moon is about 1/6.
Okay.
So just enough where you'll float back down eventually. You have a little bit of control, but definitely feeling that bounding that the astronauts would do as they walked on the moon. It is not a very natural thing. Every instinct in my body still fights every time because it's not what we're designed for, right? It's not what we've evolved to, this 1G environment. Our bodies haven't ever had anything like that to deal with before. So it's very alien. It's, for most people, and again, I've seen everything from 8-year-old kids. I brought my kids on board. I've had my mom on board. We've had billionaires, we've had rock stars, we've had TV shows, but everybody, it's a completely novel experience. It's not like anything they've ever done before in their life.
Has anyone ever gotten just married up there? Like, just something super random?
Yeah. We've actually done, I think 3 full weddings on
With
board
an
the
officiant
aircraft.
and everything?
Yeah. So I don't know if you know Richard Garriott. He made the Ultima line of online games. He's currently the president of the Explorers Club in New York.
Okay.
His dad, Owen Garriott, was an Apollo astronaut who actually lived up on the very first U.S. space station. And he followed in his dad's footsteps by becoming one of the first space tourists to actually pay his way to go with the Russians up and live on the International Space Station for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
And
Sure.
So he's been our officiant and actually done some officiating up there. Yeah, so it's great. It's a cool community.
Wow.
Go on, Nick.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to shift gears a little bit. So if you're staying on topic, go ahead, Tan.
No, I was just simply just going to add that I think most of us we only know what we think it would be like playing a video game, right? Or watching a movie where you're kind of just floating up. But to actually experience it during a wedding too is insane.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain to people. A lot of people say, "Well, what's it like? What's it like?" And I say, "It's like explaining chocolate, right? You you try and get close, but you can't quite get there. If you've ever been diving, you sort of feel that three-dimensionality of being in that world where you can move in all directions. But diving's really easy because you can swim. You can push against the water and move. And I promise you, if you try to swim in air, you ain't going nowhere. You just
I was
look
thinking
funny.
you would. Yeah, I
No.
was thinking like you would. Okay.
I
Interesting.
mean, sit in your office chair and do this and
Yeah.
see, you don't get very far. And it's about the same when you're floating around in 0G. You can't displace enough air really to move yourself around.
So you just look goofy.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like skydiving in that you're in the air moving around with no water. But again, with skydiving, you can still move yourself and you've got that airflow to kind of push against you. And there's none of that. And some people, it's just the most incredible feeling to have your whole body not know what's going on.
Yeah.
I bet.
Right. Yeah, you kind of undo everything you've ever learned in a matter of seconds, right?
Yeah. And one of my favorite things to do is to turn upside down and put my feet on the ceiling and to have other people do that, because even on the plane, when everybody's floating around, if you see pictures or videos, mostly they stay up and down like this, right? Like everybody stays in this one position because in our brains, that's the way we're supposed to be doing it. But just like the astronauts in space, there's really no up or down that we need to worry about for that 30 seconds where we're in free fall. And so I like to just put my feet on the ceiling and maybe put a hand up onto the floor to hold myself in place so I can watch everybody, make sure they're being safe. And sometimes the looks that I get from people, they'll turn around and then flip upside down. And now we're looking at each other eye to eye and looking at everybody else that feels like they're all upside down.
Yeah.
FOMO.
So then the
starts
next
kicking
time,
in.
go at the ceiling. Yeah. It's amazing. And then the next time, hang off the wall at 90 degrees to the wall, right? And so instead of being 180 degrees, you're 90 degrees. It's just as relevant. It's just as good of an angle, but it freaks people out. They're like, you can do any way you want. Like,
I would be all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All over the place, nonstop.
You should. Yeah. Slow is better, though. I will say slow is better. I mean, people want to go fast, but you end up banging off of everything.
I figured after 400 plus flights, Tim, that you'd probably be just sleeping at that point. It's like old hat. You just whatever, just be slipping around, just slamming about the cabin, just passed out after some point. I don't know. Is that like? Sorry, I was just kind of cracking myself up there, imagining that. I was like, oh, I wonder if it gets. Is the experience different after that many flights, or is it still just as fun as the first time, or would you just kind of be bored and take a nap?
Yes, and yes, it is still fun. And I did have the opportunity. NASA many years ago, instead of just flying on the plane as we have them do now, actually took over the aircraft and operated the aircraft under what we call a public use. And so the aircraft, instead of being certified by the FAA, would move over and be certified by NASA for that week or two that we were out there flying with them. And NASA flies a lot of parabolas. They would take and really push and do 60, 80 parabolas on a flight. To give you context, we normally do a maximum of 15, right? Like if you were coming to fly with us, we do 15, like 2 or 3 lunar parabolas, give you a really good sense of being on the moon, have a bunch of fun bouncing around. And then we do about a dozen of those 0G parabolas to give you that 6-ish minutes of full weightlessness. And that's usually plenty for people. They're super happy. Let's go home. Well, researchers always want more. And so for a research flight, we'll probably do twice that many, maybe 30 parabolas, right? Or in an extreme case, 40 parabolas. But NASA was pushing us to do 60, 80 parabolas. And whereas it's super fun in a 0G flight that we do with people on board, and everybody's like, yeah, let's go have fun. We're going to do Superman. Let's eat water out of These were very quiet, very important science missions where it was very quiet and very still in the cabin. And all we were doing was getting very light and very heavy, and very light and very heavy, while everybody was doing their science and making sure, tweak this, watch crystal growth here, check a 3D printer there. And so on a couple of those flights, I did sit back and I was like, oh, I'm just done with today. There's no, I'd like for this to be over now, please.
So
Zero G burnout.
Yeah. But it was funny because I knew there was important science going on and I knew there was good stuff happening. But I really love it when there are people on just experiencing it and having that zero gravity experience, because I think they have the most fun, and
Right.
they it transforms them into something different. That's not to say none of the researchers have fun. Researchers do have fun sometimes, but yes, there were a couple of those flights that we did that were just really efficient in how long they were, and those were a drag. But I still got to fly with NASA and do 80 parabolas in a day. I got 40 minutes of free fall time. Who gets that in a day other than astronauts?
Dang.
Are all these parabolas happening over land or over water, or does it change? Like what sorts of, like where do you need to be in airspace to execute these flights?
So typically it's over water. We have flown from places like Denver and Colorado Springs, and been, thank you, Star Walking, over land to do them. But typically our flight block is between about 19,000 and 30,000 feet. So we get a little bit more than that typically, just for sort of bleed over. But we need that block of airspace, top and bottom, completely blocked out for us. And we want that for probably about 10,000 feet wide. And then if we can get 100 miles long in that box, that's a great space for us to be able to work in. But that's unusual for air traffic controllers to have space like that they have to completely block out of all other traffic. So a military airspace would already be blocked out in that way, but civilian airspace doesn't normally get that. So it's sort of up for grabs where we have available. If there's military airspace, that's always preferred because we know nobody's going to be flying through it.
Right.
And the military can definitely say yes or no about people flying through. But otherwise, we end up out sort of away from all other air traffic, out over the ocean somewhere, or maybe over one of the Great Lakes, in just a spot where there's not a whole lot of other air traffic going through. Because the last thing that we want people to see is a plane doing this. As it's coming over, they're like, I think there's something wrong with that aircraft. It's not doing. No, it's doing fine now. It's doing fine now. No, it's not doing fine anymore.
It's doing better than fine. Yeah.
It's doing better than fine. I think it's going to space. So yeah, we want to keep that away from prying eyes as much as possible, just because it I'm sure it'd be a little disconcerting for somebody to see that.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, this is just so inspiring. Let me ask you this, Tim. How has your work taught you about the importance of just dreaming big and, pushing the boundaries of what's possible?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think it ties back a little bit to what you asked me earlier about the average person that comes on zero G. Right? Well, I guess there's two. There's sort of the macro of the fact that somebody thought this up. Somebody looked at it in an opportunity that was out there, and they said, we know how to do this. And this thing was parabolic flight. We know that people do it. They've been doing it since Yuri Gagarin flew on a parabolic aircraft. They climbed and dived an airplane to give him zero G time before he went up, just to see if people would even survive it.
Yeah.
There were questions with the Mercury astronauts. Can you eat? Is your blood going to keep flowing the right way when you're in this free fall condition? Because they didn't know. And so we've been doing parabolic flight for a really long time. And the big idea of, well, then let's just have this where anybody can do it. We think we've done it long enough to know how to do it safely. And then to work, it took the founders 11 years from the day they incorporated and walked into the FAA and said, this is what we want to do, until they finally got authority to go and do it. That's
so
a long
crazy.
time for somebody to start up a company. 11 years of work.
Yep.
But and now everybody gets to go and fly, right? Like if you want to go buy a ticket, I don't care how old you are, if you're, you use a wheelchair on a regular basis, that's okay. We took Stephen Hawking up.
No way.
And flew him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you on that
Hawking.
flight?
I got to prep for it, but I didn't get to actually go float with him.
Okay.
But watching him come off the
That's
plane,
insane.
I got to attend a Stephen Hawking lecture. Like that's, he's,
What was his
by the way,
reaction?
one, Stephen Hawking's hilarious, or was hilarious. Professor Hawking was much more than I expected him to be. And his reaction to the flight, they expected to do a couple of parabolas with him. They thought like they'd lift him up, let him float, put him back down, maybe do that twice. We're good. And he kept asking for more.
Yeah.
So he was on the flight and they did a couple and he was like, yeah, I'm good. Let's go. And the
No
doctors,
way.
and the doctors
So
were
cool.
like, he's doing great. We can do more. And so
This is
actually,
awesome.
they did more than they ever anticipated doing with him. And he came back down and, was typing out stuff at record speed. And he was like, that was the most incredible experience. I could have gone on and on. This was one of the most incredible things that I've ever done. Space, here I come. Like it proved to
I
him
love that.
if he could do 0G flights, he could go to space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other piece that gets me is not just the thought of, okay, we proved that people can do parabolic flight. And now we've sort of opened the door up to say, okay, let's take people that are not professional astronauts to space. Let's put them on rockets and train them and send them up, as people that are just excited about it and want to pay and go do it. And now that happens, right? When I was a kid, that was not happening. That is not a thing that you could do. And now we don't have one government vehicle where you might be able to slip on board as a scientist. You just buy a Dragon capsule and you go. You win a contest and you're out flying Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin, right? Like I actually have a New Shepard model behind me there.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. And I've known people to go and do that.
Yep.
I've known people that have that I knew in life and they were like, I'm now going to go and be an astronaut and get to look at the Earth from space.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
wow.
I think that's what the most amazing thing has been in this job is really getting to see people broaden their horizons in a way they didn't think they could.
Sure.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do this. I can do more than what I thought I could. And then also, for me, it was this disconnect of, oh, I can't trust any of my senses because when I put my feet on the ceiling, I think that's the floor and everybody else is floating, the wrong way. Like, isn't that just like society, that whatever I'm experiencing is the right way for things to be and the way that everybody else is doing it is wrong. Right. I got to let go of some of that and just, hey, we're all going to be doing our own thing up here. As long as we're safe and we're having fun, that's okay.
Yeah. Who are some of the more like memorable personalities or celebrities that you've been on flights with?
Oh goodness. I got to fly with director James Cameron, who did Titanic and Avatar and all of those, came and flew with us. One of our co-founders also co-founded the X Prize Foundation, which is where we got commercial spaceflight with Spaceship One, which has evolved into Virgin Galactic. Again, I've flown with some of the commercial crews that have gone up. So the Polaris Dawn crew that's hopefully going to launch this week up to space to do the first civilian spacewalk in human history.
Any rappers? Like I'm pitching like a music video.
We actually did do a music video. I wasn't on that flight, but we did a music video and like the guy was floating around and like throwing dollar bills out.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some crazy sizzle videos of like Google Pixel came up and did an unboxing. Martha Stewart came and flew with us.
No way.
Did she cook up there?
No, I would love that. That would have been
dude.
amazing. But she had a great time too. A friend of hers was going to the space station, and so she came and flew with us. And she was like, "This is amazing!" They're like, "You're Martha Stewart. What the heck are you doing in space?"
Yeah.
So
this is
random.
my weightless chili.
Yeah, but she had such a great time. She even tried to get like David Letterman to come on. We've had people in the music industry. We just filmed a music video for somebody that's hopefully coming out soon.
Wow.
We did The Bachelor and The Bachelorette have come up to do dates on the aircraft. it's just cool stuff like that. You know, we had an artist that came up and was videoing things to use for an art installation. We've had researchers from MIT come up and eat and do food, actual food, like, and other people trying to cook. Like, how do you cook a pancake in space, right? Like, how is that going to work?
I need to know. Yeah.
Need the answer.
I would do a bowl of pho out there, man.
Yeah.
Would that be? You'd have to do a bag. Rolls not good. So somebody's asking, did OK Go use zero G for the upside down and inside out? So some of the guys have come and flown with us. I know Damien's flown with us before. I talked to him about that. And they would love to have flown with us, but their sponsor for the music video was a startup airline in Russia. So they were actually in the Ilyushin 76, which is a Russian military aircraft that the Russians used to do parabolas. So they went over there and flew 28, I believe, flights on that aircraft to be able to get one take. That was what they wanted.
Yeah. Chat, if you guys haven't seen that OK Go music video, like Tim said, it's a one take thing, and they hop between this band. It's like 4 guys, right? They hop between all the different, like, I don't know what you would call them, stunts, tricks, that their experiences that they're trying to do. It's beautifully coordinated. Really cool example of making a music video in zero G. So hop over to YouTube, later on, and you can check that out for sure.
Yeah, and if you're an educator, OKGo also has a whole site that educators can use to do like lesson plans around some of the themes that they have in their music videos. So physics and fluid dynamics, when you're talking about the upside down and inside out, right? They pop balloons in zero G and you can watch how the fluid moves. They've got some with kinetic energy and motion, where they're doing the big Rube Goldberg machines. Oh, yeah. So that's a really good, if anybody's into science and wants to like feel like I can watch all of these music videos because there's science behind them. They've done the work to really make those lesson plans and have that stuff out there. So you can go check out the OKGo Sandbox, and that's where they've got all of their education lesson plans. We gave them an award at a Yuri's Night one time.
Nice.
So we've given them the Spirit of Yuri's Night award for taking something that was so cool, their music and that music video itself, and then transforming that into an educational opportunity and supporting educators and being able to use something so engaging as a music video to teach kids about physics and about science.
Wow.
Yeah. And they didn't even have to do it on our plane, and we still love them and think that it was an amazing music video. Right. And they worked really hard at it. And I think anybody that comes on the aircraft and tries to do anything, like if you come on, just try to eat water or a jelly bean out of the air, and you will find out very quickly how incredibly hard that is.
Eating water just sounds so weird to say.
Yeah, well, it comes out and it's just like a glob floating there, and you have to go after it. Yeah.
So there's for example, if I were in zero gravity right now and I open up this cap, what would it look like?
So
would
first,
it just start coming out?
Well, it depends on how long you've been in zero G, right? Because the water would eventually in that bottle just be around the outside. So all the water would be around the outside. Whatever you've got left in that bottle would disperse around the outside of the bottle, like the inside volume, right? Like, so it's not going to stay at the bottom. It just floats until that air is in the middle. So if you take off the cap, actually, unless you squeeze it, surface tension is going to hold that water in there pretty well. Eventually, it'll start kind of climbing out, but it's not like going to go spraying out anywhere.
Okay, so if I wanted to eat the water, I would have to squeeze it, and then it would project out this way.
Yeah, because you're really squeezing that air in the middle, right? And it's going to push the water out. There's tricks to it. But yeah, and so you do that and you but even then, if you just squeeze it, it's just going to be a big blob of water that comes on the end of that bottle.
Yeah.
It's just going to come out and it's just going to stick there, right? Like toothpaste, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just going to, and you're going to have a big blob of water unless you give it a little motion. You got to give it a little force, and then it'll pop off the bottle and be this nice glob coming at you. And stick. And so if it hits you in the face and you don't get it in your mouth, it just sticks on your skin instead. Right. And it's almost like a gel. It'll just glob there while it's weightless and just sort of stick on your skin. It's the weirdest feeling ever. Feels like it's alive. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's like some amoeba that's just oversized like microscopic creature that's just like
That's
got
so
like
crazy.
enlarged raid into existence, and it's just like, let's stick to your face.
Yeah. So imagine that though, because we did have one guy once. He was on a Japanese TV show, and his objective was to pop a water balloon. So he would pop the balloon, and then he was trying to wash his face in space, right? In weightlessness. It took him like the whole flight, and he finally was able to cup it and put the water on his face, like just get his face into it. And the water adhered completely all around his face. So if you can imagine taking like, slime and just sticking it on your face, that's exactly what it was like for him, right? It just stuck. And so he opened his eyes underwater, looking out at the camera, and had this moment of panic because he realized 100% that he was drowning, because it was covering his nose, and probably at that point starting to sort of, surface tension was creeping it along inside his nostrils. He couldn't open his mouth because it would just go right down in. And so now we have the benefit that we're only doing this for 30 seconds at a time. So, a couple seconds later, he came out and it all came off. But that's the problem with that astronauts face when you hear about somebody having a leak in a spacesuit or water in their helmet, is anything that gets in there is just going to stay in there. And if it starts to leak and cover some part of your face, you're done. That's the end.
That happened, I believe, in 2013 with Italian astronaut Luca Parmitano, right?
Yep.
Like it leaked. He was on an EVA outside of the space station, and the leak went over his head and then started wrapping around his face. There was some water leak in his suit. And I think they had to like pull him out and get him back inside, right, to prevent him from drowning, essentially.
That's insane.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it makes a lot more sense to people once they've been in that environment and had some of those things happen to them to talk about this kind of stuff. And they say, oh, I thought it was just like, I don't want to have water in my suit. This is gross. No, this is you will 100% in a teaspoon of water can drown somebody if it's up their nose and climbing through their, or keeping them from breathing. That's just, and like with Astro Access, even if it doesn't get in their nose, it's just in their eyes, right? And they can't see anymore. A lot of the things that they use are touchscreen or are buttons with very large, thick gloves, so you can't feel anything over there. So there's no tactile sense of, am I pushing the right button, unless they can literally see what they're doing.
Right.
On some of the Apollo suits and things, they would have mirrors where they could look at the dials so that they could twist them correctly. And if they can't see anymore, they can't do any of that. So the Astro Access researchers were looking at and thinking about, how would we redesign spacesuits? How would we design these things so that if you do get something in your eyes, or you're inside the space station and fluid gets in your eyes, or the lights go out, how do you find anything when everything is this lovely flat decal with lots of pictures and instructions on it?
Yeah.
How do you work with that?
Right. I also saw someone mention Chris Hadfield's experience as well. That wasn't too far before. I can't remember when which flight that was for him, but he also had an experience where I think some of the anti-fog from his visor got in his eyes, and he basically went blind in both eyes for some amount of time while on a spacewalk. And I guess his tears, were what started welling up and forming a ball in his eye, because it was irritating. It was like kind of getting a contaminant, and he had these balls of tears like forming on his face. But eventually it diluted the substance in his eyes, and he was able to see again and continue the spacewalk. But yeah, there's been a couple experiences where fluids for astronauts have actually been a detriment, but it's also something they train for, right? Like that's something that they prepare.
How do you prepare for that? Because like you're putting yourself in positions where it's like, okay, what if this, like I would have never imagined just my tears being something that could, like I don't know, because we're used to preparing for things on Earth with gravity. So like even the fuel, for example, is there a problem with like the fuel on the plane like being in 0G, like rising, or just little things like that?
Yeah.
Right.
And I've asked that question too. Somebody recently asked me, and I had to go to our flight engineers and mechanics. And they think that because we have so many pumps working inside those fuel tanks, that if one isn't pulling fuel, the other one will. And so they've never found any issues with the fuel tanks on our aircraft. I know I've done parabolas. My first parabolas were actually in a very small aircraft. Somebody I met at Embry-Riddle took me up in a small private plane, and we did some little teeny parabolas, and we ended up stopping doing that because it's very easy to get air in the fuel lines doing that. For exactly like what you're saying, right? Like the fuel floats up and then it starts sucking air in. And that's why we didn't want that to happen with all of our hydraulics either, for that hydraulic fluid to float away. Yeah. So yes, these are all problems that people are looking at. I know we've had tons of research being done on the plane, looking at rockets. And if you're gonna send a rocket to Mars, or even to the moon, or just leave it in orbit for a little while and then restart it, how do you know how much fuel is left in the tank? Right. Like we said, the fuel is going to do just like the water and sort of like spread out and be everywhere in the tank. So what do you measure it with? And how do you make sure there's fuel where you need it when you start the pumps up so that you can burn the fuel? Now, once you start moving, all that fuel is going to, if I take your water bottle that's weightless and I chuck it, the water is going to go to the back again, and it's got some acceleration on it, just like it would on Earth. So once you get moving, it's fine, but it's that initial, how much fuel do we have and how do we get it back to the pumps, that they're really working on and trying to figure out how to do.
What type of, or how large of a crew does it take to maintain the G-Force One plane? Is it kind of like a standard airplane maintenance crew, or is it a specialized, like, group of specialists?
Well, yes, and so we have a small maintenance team that works with us. We're actually certified under a larger airline, so we still fly under the same rules that like Delta and United have to fly under. And so to do that, we actually have a partner airline who's controlling all of that stuff and certifies all of our maintenance technicians, make sure that our pilots are appropriately trained. I work with through them to make sure that all of our flight attendants and coaches get trained correctly. But so they have a whole maintenance program that they make sure is being implemented on the plane, but it's really done by 2-3 people on the ground on a day-to-day basis, right? Like those are just our standard everyday, make sure everything's running correctly. Now, when something big needs to be done, we need to do a full, annual check on the plane, or you want to replace a main landing gear or something like that, then you bring in a team of specialists. But it's an airplane. There are airplane specialists all over the place, so it's just making sure they know how to read the instructions for the 727 and do the right stuff for it. So we maintain it just like any other aircraft. It doesn't have to get anything special done. I mean, most airplanes don't have a giant floating zone that's 66 feet long and 10 feet wide where everybody floats around on the inside. But yeah, other than the sort of interior configuration, it's all just normal aircraft maintenance.
There's got to be some irregular stains in that open cabin space from all kinds of experiments and fun things, right? Like there's just probably like red stain here, blue over here, right? Is there a really good meticulous cleaning crew that goes through and cleans up all the like Kool-Aid that gets thrown around?
Well, first we try not to do any Kool-Aid, specifically for that reason. We chose Jelly Belly jelly beans because they don't stain real bad, even we get them wet.
Have you done milk? I need to know.
We have not, because exactly that. We would need to clean it up really well and be able to contain it all, because we don't want sour milk on the plane. So it would just be a cleanup issue that we'd need to do. We could do milk, though. We could do milk.
Maybe almond milk. Or oat.
Is it still milk? Yeah.
Good question. Yeah.
It's I mean, we can do those things, right? Like somebody should come up and figure out, like, does that viscosity change? Does it matter? You clean pretty well. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's been on the plane. We have a couple of sets of pads for the floor that we use, because the research equipment actually bolts down into the floor. And so we have some special padding that we use to allow that to happen. And also because when we're bringing in research equipment, we tend to tear up the floor when we're doing that. So we tape the pads and stitch them back together. But yeah, so that our nice pads that everybody's just bouncing and having fun on look a little cleaner. But yeah, it cleans all up. That's we clean all the fun stuff off of there. trying to think if there's ever anything that's really bad. We don't let a whole lot of things like you can't have glitter on the plane.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
No. You can't have powders on the plane, right? So if you think of anything that's going to be an inhalation hazard once it starts floating around, none of that kind of stuff. We've had special effects people that wanted to do something that was like breaking glass, right? And watching the glass move.
Oh,
we're like,
Ooh.
not with people.
Nope.
Not with people.
That would be gnarly.
Even if it's safety glass, we don't want anybody to have the opportunity to breathe any of that in. Yeah. And so there's things like that we have to consider. So there's not a whole lot of stuff that gets out that's going to stain the walls anyways. We have done some painting in 0G very carefully with like controlled amounts of paint on brushes and that kind of stuff. But yeah, usually we do pretty good with cleanup. We're pretty proficient.
Yeah.
Deep Sky Dude in the chat here asks, can I bring a guitar? Have you guys done any instruments?
We have.
Zero Gravity?
Yeah, we have. I'm trying to think if somebody's brought their guitar. Yes. Well, I will say this. I know my friend brought a keytar.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. His name is Chris Bosshausen. He goes by.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Dr. Crispy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's one of his like promo shots is him floating with the keytar.
Badass.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah.
It was super cool. And I know that we've had some teachers actually bring a trombone because they were doing an experiment where they were looking at the three-dimensionality of sound waves. So usually when you think of a sound wave, there's a cool experiment you can do where you put a tube filled with little styrofoam balls in front of a speaker. And when you turn it on and play a note, you can actually see the sound waves that are being put out by the speaker. And just like in a standing wave, the styrofoam balls will line up. Well,
so cool. So freaking cool.
It's cool in 1G, but the reality is that sound wave is actually three-dimensional. And so if you do that same experiment, but you float it in 0G, you can see that they actually don't go in waves. They go in complete separate discs. It's like it moves all of those styrofoam pieces into separate areas along the tube. And so I've seen a teacher who had a trombone and could hold a note and actually get the styrofoam little pellets that were in the tube to line up, and you could watch as she would change notes. They would move around to like equalize, find equilibrium inside of those notes. It's the things you find when you float stuff is amazing.
That's insane.
I also like lunar gravity because I think there's a whole lot that we can learn from lunar gravity as well as 0G. I know everybody loves to go zero and go out and fly and pretend to be in space, but with all the looking towards living on the moon that we're doing, there's a whole lot. Like I said, it's not natural in my thoughts to like walk. I don't know how high stairs are going to need to be on the moon because like you could jump, like just trying to walk upstairs, you could like hit a flight of stairs in one leap. Which means you'll probably whack your head on something, right? Like unless it's super high ceilings, and even water. So we were going to do water pouring, and I've got some video. I think it's on our socials of trying to pour water, and it wouldn't come out of the bottle in lunar gravity. I had to squeeze it to get it to come out, and even then, it comes out in globs. So it looks almost like a gel because surface tension is still holding it together. It's coming down, but it's like big blobs of water. It's not that nice laminar flow that we're used to seeing from water. So it was
laminar flow, baby. Yeah.
Science terms.
Yes. I saw this in the chat here. I had to make it like I brought a broom. That made me think, has anybody ever played Quidditch on a weightless flight? Harry Potter fans out there? Like
I know Mac. Yeah, he did bring a broom. And it looked kind of like Harry Potter when he was flying around on it. But we got to be careful with those things. We don't let a lot of that stuff on. Mac was a special case. He also was flying in a he was exceptional. He was also wearing a suit that looked like one of the SpaceX Dragon suits while he was up there. And there was somebody who had made one of those. It looked just like the Dragon helmet. It was amazing. So yeah, he was flying around on his broomstick. But it's hard to do, and we don't want those things because when we come out of the parabola and everybody's going back down to the floor, we don't want anybody getting like smacked in the head with a broomstick or falling on something awkward. So we try to make everything there comfortable to fall on as much as possible, and not very pointy or pokey.
What is it like? Say I purchase a ticket, and I'm assuming a lot of people, of course, would love to document or have video of the experience. Does Zero G provide video recordings of your weightless flight so you can review it, or are you allowed to strap a GoPro to your wrist, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, so all of that is a yes. So we document it. Actually, I could take you through. So in the plane, by the way, the 727 is cool because we have stairs that come. It comes preloaded with stairs that just drop down out of the tail. So you load up back here. We've got 38 passenger seats back here, but about right here forward to about right there, that's all floating zone.
Wow.
And so that's all the padded area that we have in the plane. So it's a huge amount of area. And all down through there, we have GoPros that are mounted onto the wall right at about head height. So they're capturing video the whole flight that you're up there. And we split people off into teams so that they have, a GoPro that they're sort of near the whole time. Lots of room for people to play and have fun. And so you've already got that sort of wide angle, big view of everything that you're doing on the plane. Then we have a photographer that's up there with you. So that photographer is then taking pictures of everybody on the plane. Sometimes we even have two, back and forth, taking amazing shots so that everybody's got that cool picture of them floating. If you've got the hair for it, the hair up. They train everybody before the flight. That's part of your pre-flight training to make sure you pick your feet up. Don't touch the walls or the floor while you're getting your cool floating shots.
I want to see Tan's mullet weightless.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it would be majestic. We got to grow it out.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to put, want a real close up on your mullet, you can bring your own GoPro and do some stuff with it. But honestly, film somebody else, right? Like give somebody your GoPro, have them film you, for a minute or do something. But mostly nobody wants the shot of your face with a moving background. And it's just not fun to do. Sometimes it's provocative for people to be looking at through a camera or at a camera, screen while they're also floating. Their body gets really confused at that point. But it's also just like you're out of the experience at that point. You're trying so hard to capture content that you're not experiencing it anymore. And if you need somebody to take a quick video of you, we can do that. We have staff members on board, so we can just be like, here, give me your GoPro. I'll film you. Now that you've gotten good at doing flips, I'll film a good one and not you just flailing or swimming.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a cool video. And later on, you can get the capture from all of the cameras and get your best of shots.
Cool. That's
awesome. You're gonna end up with just the coolest footage. Like you can't top that.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. And actually, I realized I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, which was one of our clients. So they brought a bunch of influencers up. Yeah.
Nice.
It must have worked because I still buy them.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I got a question for you, Tim. I'm gonna shift gears just a tiny bit. As someone who balances a career filled with just incredible achievements, and you're just doing literally the coolest thing ever for work. How do you balance that with just like family and normal life, like going from doing zero gravity space flights to coming home and just hanging out with your family? How do you manage that? And also, do you have any advice for people who are trying to find a little bit of balance in their own lives?
Yeah, that's been a really tough one. So I've got two kids. They are now 11 and 15, and I'm married. My wife is also in the aerospace industry. So in that way, and she actually worked with Zero G early in her career as well. So she understands the pacing of, I go out a lot on weekends and do training or do flights. So I'm not always here on the weekends when everybody's available. And we've had to pivot things. We moved a kid's birthday party one time because I needed to be out of town. Somebody else was sick or couldn't do something, and okay, I need to go, and we're going to shift the party by a day so that we can make that happen. So there is sacrifice to make things work, and everybody has to be in agreement and alignment on that. But I've made it clear too that, okay, and then when I'm home, I want to be home. I want to be able to be here with the people I'm here with. or take, people out on the road with me. Is there a way, that I could, I can't bring them on the plane with me all the time, but getting to go out and meet people and do some things out on the road is also fun. So it's been a constant evolution as the kids needed more or less support. I didn't want to leave it in a one parent situation for too long. Lots of help from family when we needed it to be there. And a lot of communication. Does this date still work for us? Can we make this happen? How can I train up somebody else to be my backup? And that was one of the things too, is I need to have somebody that can back me up and I can't be the only person here. There are 11 of us that are flight attendants, and we need 2 on each flight. So part of my job is making sure that we have a cadre of people that can keep this organization moving, whether I'm there or not. And that's hard sometimes because I love flying. I want to go do it.
Yeah.
But to make sure that I'm also aware that we need other people. And honestly, I love hanging out with my kids. I love spending time with them and making sure that when I'm with them, I'm trying my hardest to focus on them and not quite shut everything else out, but make sure that I'm taking that time away. We just went on a cruise, and it was great to be in the middle of the ocean where we had no cell phone service and didn't buy the Wi-Fi. And I told everybody, you will not be able to contact me. So we are going to make alternate plans. And it was nice to just be able to focus completely like that and be able to do some traveling with them and make sure that we had quality time together. So I think it's about balance, right?
For sure.
I feel like our life is not peanut butter spread. Do you know that analogy, where it's all the same all the time? It's very lumpy.
It's chunky peanut butter.
Straight chunk.
Tim's not going to be here for 3 or 4, 6 or 12 days, but then I'm going to be here for 3 months and you're not going to be able to get rid of me. Because either we don't have any regular offices with Zero G. So if I'm not literally out on the road with the plane being part of the traveling circus, I'm at home working from my computer doing this. And so in that way too, it's really great that I can be here to put the kids on the bus, come back, do some conference calls, be there at the bus stop to get them, go back to conference calls. So in that way it's really nice, but we all have to be okay with the lumpiness and that it's not going to be, the same all the time. And I've had to miss plays and things occasionally, and I don't like it, but I think knowing that I'm doing something that I feel is important work and makes a difference for people and has an impact on the world. If I was doing day trading or I was a Wall Street investor, I don't know that I would be okay with trading out that time. But I don't feel like I'm trading money for time with my family. I will not make that trade. But when it's these are important things and this is really something that impacts the world, I can translate that to my kids. And when there is an opportunity to bring them, I can take them to a Yuri's night, right?
Right.
And I did get to take them on a flight one time. And so it's cool to be able to bring them into my world a little bit and let them see, hey, this is why I'm gone occasionally. And they're old enough now to sort of nod and go, yeah, I get that.
Can you imagine their show and tell? 11:15, right? And they're telling their friends they got to do zero gravity flights. I mean,
they went to space camp this summer, both of them. I'm also in the Space Camp Hall of Fame, by the way. Yeah.
Wow.
I did a summer as a space camp counselor. They call them crew trainers now down in Florida, which no longer exists. And then helping put the families through with the Cosmic Odyssey Scholarship. I was lucky enough to be nominated and inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is awesome. But then I felt like I had to give my kids that experience. So I sent them to space camp. And at the end of the week, the younger one said, I was trying to explain to people who you were, and I've done Zero G, and that you're in the Hall of Fame here. And they all thought I was just making it up.
Tim, being inducted into the Space Camp Hall of Fame is, that's an achievement. Looking back, what does this recognition mean to you? And, how do you hope to inspire the next generation of space enthusiasts?
Um, yeah, I had a hard time with it at first, to be perfectly honest, because I worked at space camp for a summer. I never got to go to space camp as a kid, but the universe put me in the right place and with the right people that then I got to actually go to space camp and train other people. I got to train for months. All of these kids, and then parents on the weekend would come in with their kids and do parent-child sessions. And I was able to give other people the opportunity that I didn't have. And it was really, for me, it sort of like fulfilled me and told me, okay, this is a place where I can make a difference. This is a thing that I can do. As a young person, just starting college and then facing the fact that I was going to find out I wasn't good at engineering, and not great at math and didn't love it. And I had to pivot out of that into an interdisciplinary degree that gave me science communication. And I don't think I would have had the confidence to do that if I hadn't had that background at space camp of running missions and working with students and being able to explain science concepts to say, no, this is a thing I can do. This part, I may not be an engineer, but I understand the technical aspects, and I can help people through learning about space operations, learning about, training to be astronauts, right? I didn't know what I was getting into when I was being a space camp counselor. And then working with Cosmic Odyssey the same way when Nico Blanks, who was at the time at Embry-Riddle and came through our Space Kind leadership training and wanted to take somebody through space camp who had pediatric cancer, because that was his story as well. He had pediatric cancer, found his tribe at space camp, which is a very common story, but also found that he still had the right stuff. Even after being a pediatric cancer patient, he found that there was still space for him in the aerospace community. And that gave him sort of a renewed confidence, and he wanted to pay that forward. And we worked with him and helped to fundraise, and took, to date, we've taken 80 people through the space camp experience, mostly through the weekend programs that they have there, the family camp. So we actually put them in cohorts where all of the families that are going through in a team are all have experienced pediatric cancer in their family. So it's siblings, it's parents, it's grandparents in some cases that are all on this team together, getting to do a team building activity in a way that sometimes they've never been able to do before, especially with a kid that might have had cancer, and to be able to take a child and their sibling that don't always get to play together in the same way and empower them to go out and be mission commanders, or they're going to be the ones that are outside fixing the satellite. Yeah, we're going to take your kid that's been hooked up to IVs and monitors for months of their life, and we're going to stick them in a spacesuit and out on the end of an arm, and they're going to go fix the problem, because they can do that. We've trained them up for this. I know as a trainer that we're going to train them right, and they're going to be able to come back and do this, and to be able to give them that opportunity to see each other differently. Sometimes the kids look at their parents and say, "Oh, I have to treat you like a crewmate, not like my parent."
Yeah.
I'm going to take orders from you as the mission commander, not as my parent. And that's a different mindset that we give them. So on top of just the capability and the excitement of teaching them about space things, it also gives them that opportunity to be a different person for a little while, and to experience themselves as something different and more capable than maybe they've seen themselves to be. And I think that for me is the magic of space camp, and to be able to be in the Hall of Fame and to tell people my story, that you can come from wherever you want to, and space camp can help you unlock those pieces of yourself that you might not know otherwise. And it's a community of people that wants that to happen and is excited about it unabashedly, right? You can't go to space camp and be a space nerd and not get excited about space.
Right.
And that's okay. You can mupp it out a little bit at space camp and nerd out. And that's been okay for a long time. Long before being a nerd was cool, right? Like you could nerd out at space camp, and that was all right. And so being able to go back and talk to kids there and tell them, you don't have to always follow the path that you think you're going to be on. It's not linear. there's not a checklist that you go through to get to where you're going in life. A lot of it is you take the opportunities that come to you and you make them amazing, and you help other people up along the way.
Yeah, well, and like the kind of the way space started out back in the 60s, with the right stuff, that kind of, you need to be the best of the best of the best, pristine specimen, I love that that's changed so much, and that that's not necessarily what the requirements are. It's more about your character and your desire and your passion, right? Like, in these organizations give these opportunities to people who are not, perfect health military test pilots, from the 1960s Cold War era, that you can have this wonderful story of a family, and you can be a child and get these opportunities to, like you said, be a mission commander in a way that maybe you wouldn't otherwise get that responsibility and that trust. What a beautiful thing that's available. And I love that the landscape has changed in favor of that. And do you see that expanding into the future with just space in general, and in the ways that you've been able to see it through Space Camp and in Zero G Flight, like just this opportunity, this encouragement of opportunity?
I do. I think space specifically is opening up for people more and more. And the more we empower people to sort of push that envelope to become analog astronauts, to go out on missions in deserts and underwater and other places where they're testing out equipment and procedures and crew dynamics on Earth, do things like parabolic flights, whether that's in the US or abroad, and do things like Space Camp, where they're testing out and seeing what it would be like to train for one of those missions. I think as we do more of those things, and more of those things exist, and more people go through them, they're going to have more of those aha moments where somebody goes, "Oh, you know what we should do?" Thank you, Nikki. We should put a kid in space, right? Like, we take up to 8 years, or as young as 8 years old on our plane, and that's just sort of an arbitrary. We don't really feel comfortable bringing anybody that's too young up there, because of the high G portion. Yeah, like
newborn,
zero G baby.
It's just a baby.
I mean, but at some point we might have kids floating around in space, right? We might have people pregnant in space, and we don't know how that's going to go.
Right.
So I think, like, those kind of, why wouldn't you put a kid in space? I don't know. Like, we put people on New Shepard all the time now, like in Virgin Galactic. Maybe it's time that we develop a kid-sized spacesuit and send kids to space to see what happens. Yeah, I think that's the next evolution, is really, and as we send people back to the moon and figure out, is that a place that we really want to live? Is it like Antarctica, where we're going to start expanding out our research base there and have people live there on a regular basis, and figure out how toilets are going to work and interior design? And I've told people before, when I live on the moon, because that's my plan.
Nice.
I'm definitely retiring on the moon.
Take me with you.
Because in lunar gravity, come on, it'll be like a fun retirement village, right?
Yep.
When you fall in lunar gravity, because you're only 1/6 your weight, you fall at a much slower rate in that lunar gravity. So I figured that my reflexes when I'm older are going to be just perfect, that I'll fall slower and be able to catch myself and push myself back up, right? Like, it's gonna work out nicely. But while I'm living on the moon, just because I'm old doesn't mean I want to have a crappy haircut. And I do not want a bunch of lunar geologists and scientists in charge of doing all of the things that we think about here on Earth, right? Interior design, clothing, haircuts, dentistry. In an extreme environment, sure, but we're going to need dentists on the moon. So anybody who thinks that they don't have a future in space, or that what they do doesn't count, you 100% are going to be on the moon. Doing content creation, doing veterinary services, doing anything that you can imagine, we're going to need there. So we need to go ahead and open up the space program and open up people's thoughts to, oh yeah, I belong there too. I belong there. Not I'm going to be taken along, but I belong there too. And I think that's a shift that we're starting to see, but we need to keep pushing it.
you give me hope because you said content creators in space, and I was like, oh man, yes, me too. Like that feels so good. And I think there is something about the human experience that of documenting and sharing, life. And doesn't mean it needs to be bound to earth, right? Like, and there's going to need to be architects and dentists and school teachers, on the moon eventually one day. But why not artists? Why not any other type
musicians?
of musicians, like creatives, like that type of. We need to think of the full circle there, that the human experience, right?
Yeah. Well, I've thought about it before. I'm a weirdo, but like when you're on the moon. Marge Simpson hair is going to be totally legit, right? Like you can do those like super, super, super high because it's not going to fall over as easy. You could have a 3-foot tall mohawk, no problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It'd be wild the things you could do. Acrobatics on the moon is going to be just wicked to be able to see.
Right.
And the things they could do with like glass blowing. Imagine glass blowing on the moon.
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's tons of silicates there. Like, just make some glass, and it's gonna be like moon glass that you have.
Right.
That's in these crazy ways that you could never, that just wouldn't exist on Earth. You couldn't do it.
Can we get Tony Hawk on the moon? Can we start skateboarding, starting X Games, lunar X Games?
You should look up Tony Hawk. He's been on our plane. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No way.
No, that's so cool.
Wow.
I forget all the people that are flown to this because it's like, I don't know, people come fly.
Wow.
Yeah. But I also don't want to get too enamored of any one person, right? Like, oh my gosh, this person's with a band. Oh my gosh, this person's Tony Hawk. It can be cool to talk with them and like, this is amazing. But then I have to switch that and go, so what can I help you do?
Sure.
Because now I'm the expert and you are the novice.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to work together to make sure like this isn't going to look good if you film it that way. You need to move much slower when you're doing this. How about you let the board rotate this way? Like we got Mythbusters coming on the plane, right? Like they knew how to do a certain amount of stuff, and we helped them with a certain amount of other pieces to the project. But yes, Tony Hawk was amazing, and his board, he jumped, and then in the parabola, the board was just spinning. I can't remember how many loops it did. It was some ridiculous amount. He was like,
"Did he land it? Did he stick it?"
I don't think he did.
It's like the infinite kickflip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to land things in 0G.
So cool.
I am sign me up though for the Lunar X Games. That's something that needs to happen. Extreme sports on the moon. Huge industry coming up here in the future. Oh my gosh.
I have an idea. Let's I see, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for still hanging out. There's still a good chunk of you guys in here. So again, we've been streaming for an hour and 40 minutes. So guys, seriously, we appreciate you so much for being here and just listening to our conversation. I'm sure you guys can all agree that Tim's a super interesting individual, and I think we should do something a little different. And why don't we open up the chat to you guys in the comments here? So Tim, if you're down, I'll just have if anyone has any questions you want to ask, feel free to throw them in the chat right now, and then we'll just kind of pick and choose a few. We won't be able to answer everyone's questions, but we'll try to answer as much as we can.
Yeah, so sound off in the chat. Let us know what you got.
Yeah.
And if not, we got questions. Questions for days.
Yuri's Night says, we could listen to Tim for hours.
And you have. Yeah, and you have.
I think that's actually Tim. He's been managing the Yuri's Night account on the side. He's dropping comments himself, right?
Nice.
I'm not that good. I'm not that good. Yeah, but thank you. No.
Okay, we got one right here. Let's see. This one. Let's talk health. If it takes years to get to Mars, we know we need biodiversity and new medical breakthroughs. Do you have any favorite breakthroughs?
Good question.
Ooh. Do you guys want to go first?
I can't. I don't know what to say to this.
Let's see. We need biodiversity and new medical breakthroughs. I got to internalize this question.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know.
So I have a couple that I can toss out.
Okay.
Please.
That again, I'm lucky enough to be able to see some cutting edge research because we have these researchers on the plane. Um, yes, they're trying to do this for space, but only because space is the hardest way to do it, right? Like if you solve for space, you've solved for Earth all the time. And the Astro Access, that's one of their mottos is if you can make space accessible, you can make any space accessible. Because space is the hardest thing that you can possibly do. So shoot for the hard part, and you'll hit all the other ones below it. So one thing that I've seen is 3D printed organs. We actually had somebody, it was a 3D printer. Instead of plastic, though, it actually had a binder with stem cells in it, and the stem cells they were using were cardiac stem cells, so tiny heart pieces of heart, right? Like little heart cells. So you know what I'm going for. So they actually took and they printed tiny little infant, like embryo-sized heart. So they were teeny tiny ones. They had to be able to print it in 30 seconds. So it was just a continuous squirt out of these heart cells. But they were able to make a tiny heart and actually watch all of those stem cells synchronize. So they could actually watch the heart start to synchronize, and they could see that it would have started to beat synchronously.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Holy crap!
So one of the ideas is until we have really good structures that you can build organs onto, you could actually build them in a zero gravity environment so that they don't collapse in on themselves, right? When you're doing it in 1G. So you could print and sort of, do all the little pieces that you want. And as long as it sticks together, let it solidify, grow a little bit, and then you could bring it back down to Earth for implantation. So we may be able to grow new organs in a weightless environment much easier than you could do on Earth.
That's absolutely insane, dude. That's so crazy.
I'm gonna make a startup called Body Labs, and it's gonna just be you guys want in? You could do it. That's like a new like cislunar opportunity. I think that's wild. I can't believe that's
great
a
question.
Thing.
Awesome answer. I mean, quick tangent. I bought a 3D printer, I think earlier this year, and I've just been. It's so much fun. If for the listeners out there, if you guys want to get one of the coolest investments, get a 3D printer because you honestly can print everything.
Oh yeah.
And hearing your story about this, that's awesome. Is that the bamboo?
No. It's a little. I don't think they make it anymore.
Can you print hearts?
Yeah. I cannot print hearts on it. No.
Oh, okay. Gotta find the right PDF file.
It's a mono price. That's what it's called.
So cool.
Yeah. But the startup company, again, is looking at perfecting that technology so that they can do all kinds of organs, and then just proving that it works at all to do that kind of like fluid deposition in 0G. I know when Made in Space was originally working with us, it was really hard for them to figure out just how to get a 3D printer to work at all. And now they've got, under the Redwire banner, they've got 2 of them now operating on the space station.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Is the return to gravity gradual, or does it happen quickly? It happens over like 3 to 5 seconds. So when the pilots are at about 30 degrees nose down on the parabola, right? So like we've come up, we've been in free fall. They're at about 30 degrees nose down. They give us a call over the radio, and as flight attendants, we don't have the phones that we're floating over talking to. We actually have headsets that we're wearing. So we wear aviation headsets so that the cockpit can call back to us and immediately tell us what's going on and what they're doing next, and we can confirm with them that we're ready. So they say 30 low, and that's our signal that we're about to be at the end of the parabola. So we yell out to the cabin, feet down, coming out. So that just means rotate where you're ready to hit the floor. Don't try another trick. Don't be in the middle of a spin or something.
Dude.
Don't be
and
making
then everybody
pancakes.
just sort of slowly comes back down. Now, if somebody's like floated up to the ceiling right at the end of the parabola, we're saying feet down, coming out, and they're going up to the ceiling, we'll grab them, pull them back down. But it's pretty gradual. As long as you're not fighting it and moving in the wrong direction, you'll just float back down to the floor and lay back down. We've got some thick padding on the floor that everybody falls into. So, or as long as you're not on top of someone else, or with a broom sticking up. That's always bad.
Oh my goodness.
I will say one other thing that I heard recently, and I'd forgotten about. There is a group that's working on long duration space missions, And one of the problems is if somebody needed that surgery on a long duration space mission, the one thing they can't really keep very well is blood.
Okay.
But what if you could? What if you could have artificial blood, or what if you could have dehydrated blood, or like those kinds of things? So they were actually testing how to reanimate or rehydrate or like bring these different kinds of blood synthetic, like or stored blood products.
3D printed blood.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you can do 3D printed heart, but when you try to put it in, what are you going to use? So they needed synthetic, or long duration blood that they could use. But they said, look, if we can figure it out for a Mars mission, how to dehydrate blood or have shelf stable blood, then we could easily do that in like places around the world that don't have good refrigeration, where blood transfusions are really hard to do because you can't keep the blood for very long.
Yeah, I mean, I know aboard the space station they've got that. I think it's the Melfi freezer. I think is that. So are they testing how to like freeze blood? And I think they keep blood samples in there. Like, is that the kind of thing that they're experimenting with now? And yeah, I guess that's, I don't know. Like what there's so many different ways I guess you could try to keep blood alive. You're saying dehydration.
Yeah.
That blows my mind to think about.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what all the science was on it. And again, sometimes, we need to know enough to keep things safe, but these are scientists and researchers, and some of them are doing, commercially funded science as well on the aircraft. So we don't always get to discuss it all.
Sure.
But yeah, they were looking at all. I think the thing that they were doing that time was looking at the rehydration, or like, can we take blood that we've stored and then bring it back to a usable state in a zero gravity environment? Like, how are the fluids going to mix? Because we talked about things don't mix quite the way that we think that they're going to. Diffusion doesn't happen. So we've seen lots of things on like plant growth. How does water move around in soil in zero gravity? Because you don't know how it's going to work. Sometimes it just globs onto the roots and it kills the plant because there's too much water, even if the soil is dry. So the same thing, where it was just looking at how to get the blood back. Now, refrigeration is a whole separate thing that I've seen people work on for a long time, because again, cold air doesn't move to the bottom and hot air comes on top. It doesn't work that way anymore. There's no convection. And so actually cooling and heating things can be a real big problem as well.
Thermodynamics playing a part.
Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's pick one more question here before we wrap up for the evening. Let's take a look here. I like this question. This seems pretty universal, and I'm curious as well. Is there any prep to taking a parabolic flight? Like when you go skydiving, they have you do a wind tunnel. This is the person's example here in the chat. So yeah, what sort of preparation would one need to do for a weightless flight?
We typically take people to a second story window and push and see how they react. No, I'm kidding. There's more. We do go over safety rules and some lightweight training. I know when I went skydiving, we had to watch a video and then just do some like exercises in the room. We didn't have to go in the wind tunnel before we went. But on the zero G aircraft, it's very safe. You take off and land just like any other normal aircraft that you would be in. And so that part is super easy. And then we do give training, and then we have coaches. So I'm a flight attendant. That's an FAA position. We also have coaches that are on there, which are customer service kind of folks that are there to help. And they give extra instructions on the plane. They help people along. Here's how you're going to do this. Try this. This is the way you climb up the wall when you want to do a hamster wheel. Doing that water, knowing how to get the water out of the water bottles in just the right way so that it globs and you can eat it out of the air. So there's not a whole lot of training for the people to do on the ground. A lot of it's sort of as you're going along, giving you additional instructions on, hey, this time move a little slower, or stabilize first and then do the flip. Don't jump up and do it, at first, or you're going to go straight to the ceiling. But you don't have to do any wind tunnel. There's no skydiving requirement. There's no hyperbaric chamber. NASA used to have a lot of those requirements because people had to be qualified as a crew member, even if they were a researcher, to go fly. And that was something we've totally eliminated. Is, again, if Stephen Hawking can fly with us, you can fly with us. It's not a problem. We can make it happen.
Cool.
Awesome. Tim, this has been probably one of the coolest conversations I've ever had. You do a lot, man. You're an interesting dude for sure. I'm just gonna end it with one last question here. What small steps can each of us take today to begin making a radical impact in our communities or the world?
Whew. I'm glad you saved the easy questions for last.
Got to.
Oh, what simple steps? I think, the simplest step there is be kind. When given a choice,
That's a good one.
choose kindness, right? I can honk my horn back at the person that just cut me off and nearly slammed into my car, and road rage back at them and be mad at them the whole day, or not, right? Like, I don't need to keep feeding anger into a system that's not going to benefit me at all. Just give them a little grace and say, hey, you know what? They might be having a really bad day, and that was a bad choice on their part. I don't need to make bad choices too. Kid comes home and spills milk all over the kitchen. Like, okay, it's not what I wanted to deal with right now, but is it really the end of the world? Is it really going to make it, 10 years from now, am I going to remember this milk incident?
Right.
Probably not. So let's just be kind to each other and spread a little kindness around when you can. That's why we're space kind and not space mean. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Come on, that's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
That was quick.
That was witty. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Go ahead. You were going to say something. Sorry.
The bigger thing too is, be kind in all the things that you do. But if you want to make do a thing, right? Like an actionable, I know people always want to know, like, okay, I'll be kind, but then what? Be bold, right? Like in Space Kind, we talk about dreaming big, asking for help, and never giving up. And that's part of the boldness. There is that asking for help step. Because I think a lot of people want to dream big and think they can do it on their own. And it takes a bit of humility, but also a bit of real courage to step out and to ask people, hey, will you come on my show? Can I have a flight suit? How do I do this? Where do I go? You've done something that I want to do. Can you give me some pointers or make an introduction? And I think go try it, right? Like, you want to solve hunger in your community, do it. Just start something. It doesn't have to be the right thing. It doesn't have to be the end thing that is going to solve world hunger. But if you go out and you feed 2 people, that need sandwiches that day, hey, you made the world a better place. Those 2 sandwiches are never going to be a bad thing that happened.
Right.
Go to the soup kitchen that's down the street and see how you can support. Maybe you're terrible at ladling soup, but what they really need is somebody to manage their website. Okay, that might be more in your skill set. And suddenly you're doing amazing work for them that they could not have done themselves. That is easy for you, but it makes a huge difference to somebody else. And so don't underestimate the skills that you can bring to a situation just by asking, how can I help you? Or I want to do this. What can I do to make that happen? I think a lot of times we underestimate the things that we can do in life because we try to figure out how to do it all on our own. And that becomes a really frustrating place, and it's easy to give up when you're doing it alone.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for that.
It's beautiful. It's like the phrase, it's like, hey, eat this elephant. It's okay. Well, where do I start? Like, it's a huge creature. Like, do I start with the foot or the head? What? It's like, this is absurd. But yeah, I think it's about the small contributions, right? They that sometimes make the biggest impacts because not enough people make those small efforts. Wow.
Yeah, be kind and recognize the people that do. When you see something good, it doesn't take a whole lot of time or money to just tell somebody thank you. I've said thank you to the people cleaning bathrooms before, especially at something like terrible, like a concert or a festival, right? Like you're at a conference and somebody's cleaning things. Like, man, that is a tough job. Thank you. You're keeping the place looking nice
Right.
for all the rest of us. And that doesn't cost me anything,
Nope.
right? There's no reputation points I got to put down. I'm not worried about views on that. It's just, throwing a little kindness out into the universe. And I feel like, yeah, it makes everybody's day better. Isn't that great?
What a amazing message. Thank you.
Yes. Well, Tim, I just want to say on behalf of me and Tan, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight and giving us your knowledge, your expertise, your wisdom, not just on your profession, but life in general. I think everyone here in the chat who's been hanging out with us, certainly us, we are enriched, enlightened, and feel like better people having the chance to have heard your experience. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us tonight. This is amazing.
It's my pleasure. And I appreciate all the work that you guys put into having a podcast, right? Like none of these people would have heard about this, and I wouldn't be as excited as I am about my life if I didn't get a chance to talk with you guys tonight. So thank you for hosting and for putting the effort into making a podcast and bringing new audiences in to hear and see things about space. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. So keep up the good work. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we appreciate it so much. And we hope that perhaps in the future, you'd be willing to come back and do a round 2 with us. That would be so much fun to have you back.
Yeah, I'll have to go do some new things, but we can work on it.
You do 400 more parabolic flights, then we'll get you back.
Deal.
It's sweet. Sounds good. All right. Well, we're going to exit you here and we're going to wrap up the show. So thank you so much, Tim, for being on the Galactic Window. It's been awesome getting to know you.
You too. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Take it easy. Yes, sir. Oh, man. Tan, are you like not ready to just go take on the world right now?
It's 11 o'clock, and I think I'm ready to hop on. I'm about to book a flight right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see if they have a Groupon or something.
Groupon.
It's hard to not have conversations like this and then just like not want to do something.
Right.
This is kind of where I find my little bits of inspiration. Just simply hearing someone talk, just some sound waves that are just entering my ear, is making me feel certain things. What an incredible thing. And to be able to share this with you guys is just icing on the cake, man. So cool. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
The human experience is the best experience, right? Like what a sterile life this would be if, we didn't get to talk with people. And like you were saying, just like it's sound waves. That's all this is. Like we're hearing sound get transferred over digitally over from a microphone to your speakers or your headphones, and how that stirs us up to want to pursue, a better life. What a phenomenon.
Too cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Too cool.
What a phenomenon.
Guys, thank you so much. Seriously, everyone in the chat. I know there's tons of comments. I've been reading all of them, but seriously, just you guys being here is, whether you believe it or not, this is just making me, like, it makes us more excited to do these because we know that you're listening. This was it was a 2-hour podcast, and you guys could have been sleeping. You guys could be doing something productive, but you chose to hang out here and listen to us yap. So, you guys are just freaking awesome.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah.
Every minute that you guys hang out with us on one of these episodes is supporting us immensely. Thank you so much. You really don't know how much of a difference that makes. So thank you for that. We should probably shift gears, talk about what's coming up next. The Galactic Window Space Podcast airs weekly. This week was, of course, an abnormal time. Typically, we're broadcasting our episodes on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. This was an oddball week where we were on Wednesday night. Next week will also be an oddball week. We're going to repeat just like this week and do Wednesday night. So that's September 4th. Mm-hmm. We're going to be airing episode 14 with me and Tan. We're going to be talking about our Perseid trips for the Perseid meteor shower. We have some pretty cool stories of traveling. A couple weeks ago, Tan and I each did our own trips. So we'll be the people and not quite the guests. We're our own guests, I guess. We'll just be discussing.
Lame.
I know, right? It'll be just me and Tan. We'll be hanging out, and we hope you guys are willing to join us next week, Wednesday. Following that, the goal is to resume our typical Monday nights at 9 p.m. And just stay posted and glued to our social media accounts so you can hear when the next schedules are coming up and if there are any changes along the way. But yes, I think. Here, Tan, what are you thinking about in that picture? That's
Spam. Canned meat.
Canned meat. Yes.
The regular kind, not the half sodium kind, like just the regular Spam.
Dude, if we end up on a 0G flight, can we eat Spam together?
Dude, I don't know what it is, but yes, to answer your question, yes. But that's like one of the first things I probably would try is eating something and then just, like moving around and doing crazy things. But eating something for sure.
Yes.
Eating pho upside down. Imagine eating like a steak and you're upside down and trying to, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Imagine trying to like build a Lego and weightless.
Ooh.
I mean, it'd be like that's the equivalent of glass. Yeah, it's just not a good idea. But
like, where's that little 2x4? Oh.
Yeah, right. It's all over there. It's hard enough to build Legos in 1G, but that would be quite the challenge. But yes, if we get the chance.
Spam.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Cool. Well, Tan, it's been great having this conversation with Tim. We had a really good time, and everybody in the chat, again, thank you for spending your Wednesday night with us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You guys rock.
Yes. So until the next episode of the Galactic Window Space Podcast, we've been your hosts. Thank you so much, and we will see you all on the other side.